Hello. Iran and the United States have announced details of a prisoner swap just hours before international sanctions against Iran are expected to be lifted. Iran has released 4 prisoners with dual US-Iranian nationality, including the Washington Post journalist Jason Rezaian, who was convicted of espionage last year. The United States is releasing 7 Iranian inmates. The prisoner swap comes as diplomats gather in Vienna for the presentation of a report by the UN's nuclear watchdog, the IAEA, which is expected to say that Iran has scaled back its nuclear activities to comply with last July's landmark agreement. Iran hopes that will result in the lifting of most sanctions.
Today is a day when we prove to the world that threats, sanctions, intimidation, pressure don't work. Respect works. Through respect, through dialogue, through negotiations, we can in fact reach mutually acceptable solutions, implement mutually acceptable solutions, prove that the naysayers were always wrong.
We can go live now to our correspondents Barbara Plett-Usher in Washington and Bethany Bell, who's in Vienna. Barbara, to you first of all, this deal with the prisoners, it really removes one big bone of contention between these two countries.
Yes, it does. It's been an Achilles heel for the administration as well, because its critics have been saying you've been talking about a nuclear deal with Iran in negotiations for 2 years, and during all that time Iran's been holding Iranian Americans in prison and you haven't been able to free them. Now, the administration has always said that these are very separate issues, that they need to focus very narrowly on the nuclear talks in order to get a deal, but that at each meeting they did raise the issue, and they had said that they would continue to press very hard for the release. But as this deal is coming to implementation and sanctions are going to be lifted, it's becoming more politically difficult for the administration to explain why Iran is still holding these dual nationalities, these dual national prisoners. So the announcement of their release, so far we have it from Iran state media, although the BBC has confirmed the release separately. The announcement of the release will be an achievement for the administration, and they'll present it, I'm sure, as a victory for diplomacy.
Any details of the timing?
No, very little details at all, actually. As I said, Iran media has been the one that has given out the report of 4 Iranian Americans being released. The BBC has confirmed that Jason Rezaian, who is the Washington Post correspondent convicted of espionage, is among them. Other dual nationalities held by the Iranians include a U.S. Marine, a businessman, a Christian pastor. We can expect that they were probably involved in this release. Again, it's the Iranians that are saying it's a prisoner swap. We haven't got any details from the Americans, although there has been talk of an exchange in the past with Iranian prisoners held in U.S. jails on charges of sanctions busting, so that it could probably be an element.
And Bethany Bell in Vienna, how's this news going down where you are?
Well, on a day in which people are expecting this report from the IAEA saying Iran has complied with its obligations under the historic nuclear deal in the summer, people are seeing this as a sign of, yet more warming ties. We're still waiting for that IAEA report, but it is expected that it will say that Iran has lived up to its side of the bargain, and that once that report is out, it will be the green light for the lifting of the nuclear-related sanctions on Iran that were imposed by the EU, the US and the United Nations, that those sanctions will be lifted or in some cases suspended. So a day that would mark for Iran the unfreezing of those assets and releasing billions of dollars back into the Iranian economy.
I guess we don't know the details of what the IAEA are going to say, but I mean, is it immediate? If the sanctions are lifted, can Iran immediately start exporting?
The process begins, yes. I think that once the United Nations Security Council has been informed, once the IAEA's member states have been informed, it is the beginning of the end of the sanctions. They will then roll out in their different timetables. We haven't got exact detail on that yet, but it means that Iran will have been brought out of the cold back onto the global economic stage.
And Barbara in Washington, what will the political effect of this prisoner release be, do you think, in terms of American politics?
Well, as I mentioned before, this has been something that the administration has been criticized for, not being able to get the prisoners released until now. There is a lot of focus on the fact that these Iranian Americans are in jail. It's seen as a sign that the Iranian government is still involved in bad behavior. It's still a government that can't be trusted, and why should the Americans be making a deal with that kind of a government? That's how the critics of the deal see it. So I think politically, if the release does come through as announced, that will help to ease some of that kind of criticism.
Barbara Plett-Usher in Washington, Bethany Bell in Vienna, thank you both very much.